It strikes me that the U.S. has gotten the bayonet work down reasonably well, the war on terror, the so-called war on terror, but it keeps trying to sit on the tip. And the war will not ultimately be won on the battlefield alone. It will be won by encouraging allies around the world to stand with us, and by making it as easy as possible for millions and millions of Arabs and Muslims who are undecided about us and undecided about the terrorist ethic to reject that ethic, to take a different course. And what is the best way to persuade the three guys who are undecided about extremism, those millions and millions of Muslims who on September 10 were not inherently hostile to the United States, who may even have admired our universities, envied our political freedom? What's the best way to persuade them to reject the terrorist option? Well, surely it is to display eminent respect for the Islamic heritage and traditions, and to be a model of respect for human rights ourselves. But of course, what the U.S. has done, not in its rhetoric, but far more in its actions, has been exactly the opposite. I guess I was just naive, but I never thought I'd see the day in this country again when hundreds of people were hunted down, rounded up, imprisoned, shackled, denied access to their families because of the color of their skins, the ethnicity of their names, the practice of their religion. That's exactly what has happened to thousands and thousands of Muslim residents. I never thought I would see the day when the United States would imprison two of its own citizens and then try to deny them the most fundamental right any U.S. citizen has in the lexicon of juridical rights, the right that every one of us was taught we had in elementary school, the right to a lawyer, the right to know what you're charged with, the right to confront your accuser. But that, of course, is exactly what happened to Jose Padilla and Yasser Hamdi, both Muslims. I didn't think I would see the day when the U.S. would thumb its nose at the Geneva Conventions. Hell, we wrote the Geneva Conventions. But that's exactly what we've done at Guantanamo Bay. Never thought I'd see the day we denied habeas corpus. That hasn't happened in this country since the Civil War. Habeas corpus to prisoners. I never thought I'd see the day when the Transportation Security Administration would construct a no-fly list to prevent certain residents from getting on airplanes, but not tell us how to get our names off. So far, the no-fly list has snagged a 78-year-old nun from Wisconsin and constantly snags our U.S. Senator, Edward Kennedy, who is a terrorist only for the purposes of Republican fundraising. And I certainly never thought I would see the day when U.S. interrogators would publicly and unapologetically torture suspects systematically, as we've done in Iraq and Afghanistan and Guantanamo, and probably are still doing today with the full approval of the highest authorities, and I mean the highest authorities of our government. Taken together, these actions constitute the gravest threat to human rights since the creation of the Universal Declaration in 1948, because they threaten the entire structure upon which human rights are built. The notion that we're trying to build a civilized world together in which all people are respected and all nations abide by the rule of law. You need not love your enemies, but you certainly ought not to strip them of their dignity, or you plunge the world even further into barbarism and invite an even more horrific retaliation. By engaging in such a sense of our own exceptionalism, we hand fodder to our adversaries. We play right into bin Laden's hands, for we appear to confirm his claim that we follow the rules only when it is convenient, that we care for nobody but ourselves, and that we are in fact not out to build a world where those of every faith are honored, but a world in which only the United States and its allies hold the purse strings and power. But 81% of experts on terrorism said a few weeks ago that the world is more dangerous today than it was on 9/11. And the result of this has been a radical diminution in America's reputation for credibility and benevolence. Consider that even in countries that we regard as our staunchest allies, the favorability rating of the United States has fallen dramatically since the year 2000. It's fallen 14% in Japan, 23% in France, 27% in Great Britain, 27% in Spain, and 41% in Germany. In Muslim countries, the drop is even more dramatic, 40% in the US-friendly nation of Turkey, and 45% in Indonesia. And nothing has fueled that disillusionment more than the United States' unabashed use of torture. If human rights have anything to teach us, they teach us that all of our bodies will perish. They teach us that evil will perish too. They teach us to recognize evil, to combat it, and one thing more. They teach us to be temperate in the use of our power, temperate in our triumphs. Lao Tzu said, conduct your triumph as if it were a funeral. If human rights have anything to teach us, it is that we should guard well everything that we cherish. Yes, guard it well, our lives, our loved ones, our way of life, but that we should remember that it is only a generous heart that makes what we cherish worth guarding in the first place. And that, I think, is a lesson that we have failed as a nation to learn. I have traveled to more than 65 countries, and I know that what the world most admires about this country is not its military power, not its economic might, not even its entrepreneurial spirit. What it most admires is the vision that at its best the society seeks to reflect, of a nation that respects immigrants, that protects minorities, that provides due process even to the most evil, heinous person among us. That's what the world most respects about this country. And if we betray that, we betray one of the most powerful resources at our command with which to confront those who would do harm to the innocents. If we betray that, no one will say Kaddish over our graves. They will dance upon them. I can only hope that this country is better than that. And I know that our future and our safety depend upon